3 spine-chilling real stories exposed with terrifying photos and unexplained video footage. As the sun dipped low over the picturesque town of Maple Grove, Rachel's heart raced with a growing sense of dread. She was just a single mother trying to raise her 2 kids, Emily and Jake, in this quaint Midwestern paradise. Or so it seemed. Behind the tree-lined streets, there lay an unsettling secret, one that turned her ordinary life upside down. It started with a text at midnight: "I see you." The chill of fear wrapped around her like a cold blanket, replacing the comforting sounds of her children sleeping. Each message sent her into a panic, details spilled that no stranger should know: the bench where Emily played, the flowers blooming in her garden. But it was the eerie, grainy photos that sent her spiraling into terror. Stolen moments captured in the dark, the silhouette of her children, their laughter forever frozen, uninvited and eerie. Who was watching? A shiver ran down her spine. Rachel approached the local police, her voice quaking. "Someone is watching us." They laughed it off. One officer even patted her shoulder dismissively, muttering about the overactive imagination of a busy mother. Isolation crushed her spirit. She turned to neighbors for help, but their expressions morphed into frowns, shadows cast on their faces. Whispers of disappearances swept through the town like an autumn wind, stories of families that vanished without a trace. It wasn't just paranoia, it was terror lurking beneath the surface. The unease seeped into their home like a sinister fog. Emily and Jake began to mention a man in the shadows. Each time they brought it up, Rachel felt her stomach twist tighter. Their playful giggles turned into whispers of fear that echoed around the walls. It was supposed to be a safe place, a sanctuary. But what was the cost of that perfect little life? One hellish evening, after a grueling shift at the diner, Rachel found an envelope on her doorstep. Her hands trembled as she tore it open, revealing photos this time, shots of her children taken from inside their home. They were like snapshots of a nightmare. Fear clawed at her throat as she looked inside, her children's precious moments turned into a chilling record by an unseen predator. A siren blared in her head, drowning out every rational thought. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." She dove deeper into Maple Grove's history, scrolling until her eyes burned. What she found made her blood run cold. A local legend whispered among the old-timers of a figure who preyed on families, always lurking, always watching, leading to a series of haunting disappearances that lingered in the air like a bad omen. Rachel's heart raced. The pictures, the texts, the whispers, it all clicked. She was at the center of a nightmare. Her mind was a pressure cooker, filled with fear and fury. Each day brought new complaints from Emily and Jake about the man in the shadows. Then, one dim evening, Rachel saw him, the outline of a figure watching from the edge of her yard, slipping into darkness as her heart pounded through her chest. In that moment, defiance ignited within her. She would confront this force, this despair bleeding into her home. Gathering courage, she stepped outside, breath hitching. "Show yourself," she yelled into the night. The trees whispered back, but instead of silence, a familiar taunting voice slithered through the darkness, chilling her to the bone. It was then she realized, in her desperate pursuit to protect her family, she had awakened something that drew closer, something that hungered for her children. The dread clung to her as a single urgent thought crashed over her: escape was no longer an option. The shadows thickened around Rachel as she stood in her yard, the cool air biting against her skin. Doubt and determination warred within her, but she couldn't turn back. "Who are you?" she shouted, her voice shaking yet defiant. The only reply was the rustling of leaves, whispering secrets meant for ears other than hers. Then it came again. The voice, soft and slithering like smoke, curled around her. You won. Protect them, Rachel. It mocked her, laced with a cold, dark laughter that wrapped her in an icy grip. Her heart raced as reality dwindled, narrowing down to a singular thought. The sound of Emily and Jake's laughter from inside the house seemed so far away, so fragile. With every passing second, she felt the distance grow. Panic pulsed through her veins. What if the figure truly intended to take her children? She darted back toward the door, but the familiar shape emerged from the corner of her eye, a dark figure flickering within the trees, only inches away. Fear slammed into her like a freight train. The shape moved smoothly, effortlessly, swallowing the light around it. Rachel, it said her name softly, tenderly, as if lulling her. Time slowed. She stood frozen, a statue better suited for a nightmare than the dimly lit yard she called home. Get inside, now! She screamed, urgency pouring into her words as she sprinted toward her house. Her heartbeat thundered in her ears, drowning out everything else. As she reached the door, she fumbled with the lock, adrenaline turning her fingers clumsy. Inside, she bolted the door, breathing heavily, the weight of dread settling onto her shoulders. The silence enveloped her. Only the soft hum of the refrigerator and the faint creaks of the house filled the air. She raced to the living room, where Emily and Jake sat on the couch, wide-eyed and fearful. "Mommy?" Jake's voice barely rose above a whisper. He was at the window. No, Rachel breathed, kneeling before them, scanning their innocent eyes, searching for reassurance. It's okay. It's okay. But her heart told her differently. The warmth of the sun was long gone, replaced by the frigid terror that had rooted itself in her life. Without thinking, she drew the curtains tight, blocking the world outside. The dark weight of the house felt stifling. She gathered the kids into her arms, wrapping them tightly in her embrace. Whatever was out there, it would not take her children. She would fight. Let us play a game, she declared with a forced cheerfulness, hiding the tremors that threatened to escape. How about we make a fort? Can we have flashlights? Emily asked, eyes glimmering with trepidation. Of course. Rachel smiled, shakily reaching for the box of emergency supplies. She guided the children to the basement, where they could escape the stifling shadows above. As they descended the dimly lit stairs, her heart pounded not just from fear, but from determination. It felt wrong, hiding away, but it may be their only chance. Once they were settled in the basement, Rachel switched on the flashlights, illuminating makeshift caves of blankets. Laughter flickered through the air, though it was shadowed by tension. This fortress would be their sanctuary, if only for a moment. Suddenly, an unearthly sound pierced the stillness, scraping against the side of the house, a rhythmic cadence like fingernails against wood. Ice flooded her veins. The screaming silence that followed suffocated the joy. "Mommy, what is that?" Jake's voice trembled as he clutched her arm. The sounds echoed louder, twisting into a cacophony. Rachel's heart dropped. The figure was here, and it wasn't just watching anymore. In the frozen moment before panic surged again, she made a decision. "Stay here," she whispered urgently, gripping the flashlight. The sound stopped, replaced by an eerie quiet that stretched on forever, twisting uncertainty into dread. She would have to confront this terror head-on, with her children's safety on the line. Taking a deep breath, Rachel steeled herself, ready to face whatever lurked outside. But as she moved toward the stairway, a low, ominous voice echoed in the darkness. It's time to play. What game would this creature force her to endure? Would Rachel's resolve be enough? And as she braced for the confrontation, the shadows seemed to draw closer. Rachel took an unsteady step toward the stairs, the beam of the flashlight wavering with every pulse of her trembling hand. The figure's voice twisted and slithered like a serpent, coiling around her thoughts and squeezing tightly. "Playtime only begins when you're prepared to lose," Rachel, her breath caught. What did it want? What were the stakes? She clenched her teeth, trying to summon whatever strength remained deep within her. "Mommy!" Emily called, her voice a soft tremor that chipped away at Rachel's resolve. "I'm scared." "Stay close," Rachel commanded, trying to keep the fear from seeping into her tone. The kids huddled around her, their small bodies pressing into her sides. Each heartbeat resonated with flickering uncertainties, the shadows in the dim basement closing in. It was as if the walls whispered their secrets, taunting her. The oppressive silence was split again by another scraping sound, this time more intense. Nails against wood echoed through her mind like a sinister lullaby. It was coming from just above them, somewhere in the house, waiting, watching, needing them to despair. "Turn off the flashlight," Rachel whispered harshly. "We have to be quiet." In an instant, the beam snuffed out. They were plunged into darkness, a sphere of blackness thick enough to feel almost tangible. Rachel's heart pounded, 3 loud beats echoing in the silence. "Mommy!" Jake whimpered, squeezing her arm. "Hush!" she hissed as she scanned the darkness, wishing desperately to see even a hint of light or safety. Intensity swelled in the room, drowning out the soft rustle of her children's breaths. Barely perceivable in the blackness, an icy rush brushed her face like a whisper. Rachel felt the urge to scream rise within her, but she couldn't. Not now. Each second stretched, taut and dangerous, as she strained to listen. Footsteps, light at first, began to creep down the stairs. Heavy and deliberate, they sounded as if someone or something was purposefully trying to announce its arrival. The terror sunk deeper into her chest, clenching her lungs. "Get behind me," Rachel commanded gently. The children obeyed, forming a protective line behind her. She steeled her resolve, wondering how deep her instinct to protect them would push her. The figure loomed at the bottom of the stairs, a silhouette against the faint glimmers of residual light. It stepped forward, bathed in darkness, and a cold smile stretched across its face. "Ready to play?" it crooned, as the shadows twisted into grotesque shapes around it. Rachel's mind raced. What did it mean by play? Was it a game of survival? Would it harm her children? She had to confront it, to dig deeper into whatever this creature desired. "Leave us alone. We're not afraid of you," Rachel shouted, the words tearing from her throat, each syllable a lifeline that barely masked her growing dread. But the figure only laughed, a sound that sent shivers cascading down her spine. "Ah, but you should be, Rachel. Fear is just the beginning of the game." A low growl reverberated from the shadows, a sound that resonated deep within her bones. Her heart drummed in partnership with it, echoing a primal instinct to flee. But where to? Suddenly, Rachel remembered the small window near the ceiling, just above their heads, a potential escape route. "Emily! Jake! We can!" And just like that, the growl silenced her. The figure straightened, blocking her view of the window as if it were the very last glimmer of hope. It extended a finger, pointing directly at Rachel. "Only one can win this game, and it won TBU." A sudden rush of anguish and dread washed over her. She had to act. Time was slipping through her fingers, descending into a chasm of horrific uncertainty. As Rachel steeled herself for a confrontation that felt impossible, the air shifted again, thick and suffocating. Shadows leaped against the walls, closing in. Then, the growl returned, louder, more insistent. What desperate choice lay ahead? And at what cost? As the figure lunged, its features sharpened in the beam of light that flickered unpredictably. Would Rachel manage to break free of its grasp, or was this the dark beginning of something far worse? No amount of preparation could shield her from what awaited her next. The darkness surged. Rachel felt the air tighten around her like a noose. The figure's smile widened grotesquely, revealing teeth that seemed too sharp, glinting in the feeble light. Just a few steps away, it loomed like a shadow brought to life, eager to consume her. "Mommy, I can't see." Emily's voice faltered, barely a whimper. A surge of adrenaline hit Rachel like a cold wave crashing over her. "Shoo! Stay quiet," Rachel whispered, each word a fragile shield against the mounting fear. The children nestled closer, their small forms trembling against her, but the figure moved forward, and every step echoed in her ears like the haunting toll of a distant bell. The growl intensified, a low rumble that scraped at her sanity. Rachel forced herself to focus, to block out the sound that threatened to envelop her. "Why are you doing this?" she shouted, desperately searching for any thread of reason in its cloud of madness. "Do you want to win?" it murmured, its voice soft and inviting, like a siren-esque call. "All games have rules, Rachel. Are you ready to play?" Rachel's throat tightened. She felt the weight of the moment pressing down on her chest, a tangible thing that thickened the air and curled around her heart. The creature's eyes glimmered, hungry and knowing. It anticipated her fear, thrived on it. "Jake. Emily. When I say run, you run for the stairs." The shadows around them flickered at the edges of the basement, seeming almost alive in their intangibility. Rachel shifted her stance, bracing herself as the figure tilted its head, studying her. It was as if it could decipher her thoughts. "Run, run, run," it hissed, the sound like nails on glass. A sudden crash startled them, a crash from upstairs, reverberating through the floorboards like an anguished scream. Rachel's heart leaped. "Go!" The word burst out, sharp and desperate. Emily darted to the right, while Jake clung tightly to Rachel's side, unwilling to let go. But even in the chaos, Rachel felt strong a fierce need to protect them. She snatched Jake's hand, and they bolted. But the figure was faster, lunging after them. "No!" Rachel screamed, shoving her son toward the stairs with every ounce of strength she could muster. The darkness clawed at her heels as they stumbled toward safety. Jake stumbled, falling just a stride short, but Rachel's grasp was ironclad. She yanked him just in time, pulling him up, breathing heavily, her heart a terrifying drum beneath her ribs. They dashed toward the stairs in blind panic, adrenaline fueling every frantic step as Rachel glanced back. The figure stood still, a statue forged in horror, its grin unyielding as it watched them flee. It didn't chase them right away, it reveled in their panic, enjoying the game. The stairs creaked beneath their weight, a warning sound that drove Rachel forward. Amidst the shadows, she caught a glimpse of the figure's eyes, piercing and unholy, a reflection of her own primal fears. At the top of the stairs, the door was ajar. Freedom whispered just out of reach. "Come on," Rachel urged, launching Jake into the dim light that trickled in from the hallway. "Mommy!" Emily's cry echoed in the house behind them. An instant later, the door slammed shut, cutting off the fabric of their escape, a sound that resonated like the finality of a tomb. Rachel's heart sank. She threw her weight against the door. "Emily, hold on." She could feel something sinister radiating from behind her, coiling through the air. "Only one can win this game." The figure's voice dripped with malice, echoing, dampening the hope of salvation. "The rules are simple." Rachel's breath hitched as the darkness clawed at her sanity. For every second they remained inside, the stakes only grew higher. She dropped her shoulder against the door, pounding with rage. But what if the threat wasn't just beyond the door? What if it had already claimed the upstairs? What if it had already started to take Emily? As time twisted and stretched, Rachel felt a chilling realization wash over her. She had to make a choice. Not just to escape but to confront the horror claiming her. Family. But how? The figures in the hallway twisted, seeming to dance on the edges of her vision. "Mommy," came a pleading whisper now. In that moment, a flicker of hope fought against despair. But just beyond her resolve, darkness lingered, waiting. Was she ready? And at what cost would victory come? The door trembled under Rachel's weight as she pressed her body against it, desperation clawing at her throat. Her mind raced. Emily's voice echoed in the darkness, a tiny flame flickering in a sea of shadow. "Mommy!" The cry sliced through the thick air, igniting her will to fight. "Please, just hold on." Rachel screamed, feeling the tremor in her own voice, the undeniable edge of fear creeping like ice into her heart. The atmosphere thickened, an invisible hand gripping her tighter. She shoved against the door, feeling the splintering would give slightly. But the figure behind her lingered just out of reach, a reminder that they were still trapped in its maze. She thought of the upstairs, what waited behind the door. Could she really leave Emily down there, alone? No. Rachel's resolve solidified. She needed to confront the horror, not let it fester in the dark. With one last push, she flung the door wide. The hinges screamed, but her eyes could barely take in the dim hallway. Flickering shadows danced along the walls, creeping into her thoughts. If her daughter was here, she couldn't abandon her. She took a step forward, adrenaline pumping furiously through her veins. Suddenly, the growl echoed again from below, a sound dripping with malice. Rachel froze, heart racing. It echoed with purpose, building time while she stood rooted to the spot. "Jake, stay behind me," she whispered, trying to hold on to the strength for both of them. Her body trembled as they snuck into the hallway, every creak of the floor beneath them felt like a gunshot in the silence. Rachel strategically placed her foot, cautious about every sound around her. The walls felt alive, breathing, watching. "Mommy?" Emily's voice was now a frightened whisper, pulling at Rachel's heart. Rachel turned toward her son's wide eyes, glimmering in the low light. "We're getting her, we have to stay together," but a thick fog of dread hung between them, a realization creeping up her spine. They were not truly alone. The figure from the basement, it had to be closer than they thought. It was inviting them, to play. With no clear plan, she moved toward the staircase leading up to the second floor. Each step felt uncertain, as if the very house was conspiring against them. "Take it slow," she whispered, and they climbed carefully, the soft thud of their feet drowned out by the increasing growling behind them. As she reached the top, a familiar chill washed over her. The hallway mirrored the basement, shadows pirouetting in ways that seemed unnatural. Rachel's confidence began to falter, and all the memories of warmth, home, security started to fade in the looming blackness. "Let us split up," Jake suggested, his voice barely audible, fear emboldening him to speak. "You want to get caught?" Rachel snapped, her heart hammering with a new intensity. "We stick together or not at all." Just as she finished speaking, a light flickered above them, illuminating the depths of the hallway, but it felt more like a spotlight on them. She hesitated, biting down her uncertainty. What if she began, but the implication hung heavy in the air. What if they weren't the only targets? The scattered sounds of chaos now came thick, footsteps wandering, whispering around them. It was as if the darkness itself was rising, reaching for them, desperate for a taste. Her fingers brushed against the wall, sending chills racing down her spine as if the very plaster was alive. Something changed. It felt like the walls were closing in, making escape harder. "Mommy. We have to go." Jake gripped her arm fiercely, Rachel's breath hitched. What if Emily was around the corner, trapped in some twisted game? She faced the choices ahead. It was more than just rescue. It was survival. The figure wouldn't show itself. It was waiting for something to happen, waiting for them to splinter apart. But then a low, mocking laugh echoed, too close, too familiar. "Only one can win," it echoed through the air, a sickening distortion of Emily's voice. Rachel stepped back, the weight of her choices closing in. The walls whispered. Now, the race against time wasn't just about saving Emily but about protecting their very souls. What rules were at play in this twisted game? How far would Rachel go to save her family from this nightmare? With each agonizing heartbeat, the crawl of darkness hugged at her edges, but she could feel a spark ignite within her. "Emily, I'm coming," she shouted, pushing through fresh panic, and in that moment, she knew the shadow wasn't finished with them. Not yet. But as she turned the corner, joy pierced her heart when she thought she saw a familiar silhouette at the end of the narrow hallway. Emily. But then the figure shifted, sinister and unknown. Nothing was as it seemed, and the stakes were getting unbearably high. How long before Rachel would have to decide who or what she was willing to sacrifice? The answer lurked in the corner, waiting. Rachel's heart raced as she squinted towards the silhouette, a ripple of hope flickering in the depth of despair. "Emily," she called again, her voice thicker now with desperation, laced with an urgency that pierced through the suffocating darkness. The figure paused, caught in the dim light like prey frozen before a predator. A chill washed over Rachel. She couldn't decipher the shape, but the air shifted, a warning prickling at the back of her neck. "Mommy." The voice that responded was undeniably Emily's, yet it was warped, echoing in an unfamiliar timbre that sent a shiver down Rachel's spine. "Stay behind me," Jake muttered, pulling closer to Rachel, his small frame trembling. They moved cautiously, the light flickering uncertainly as if aware of their movements, threatening to plunge them back into the abyss. Step by step, Rachel advanced, each footfall amplifying the haunting silence. "Emily, we're coming. Where are you?" The shadows shifted, morphing unsettling shapes along the walls, ringing a faint bell of memory, a memory of safety swiftly curtailed. The laughter returned, low and foreboding, slithering through the air like a serpent. "Only one can win," it echoed again, distorting Emily's childlike cadence until it sounded more like a taunt than a plea. "What is happening? Where are you?" She felt herself pulled into dissonance, her heart pounding in harmony with the otherworldly melody, her instinct screaming at her to turn back. But she couldn't abandon her daughter. Suddenly, the silhouette lunged forward, clad in shadows, moving too quickly, too erratically. Rachel's breath caught. It was a trick, another dark play in this malevolent game. "Jake, stay close," she commanded, heart hammering like a drum in her ears. "Mommy, I'm scared." Jake's whisper trembled in the air, but Rachel gritted her teeth, trying to steady her wavering resolve. She could feel the darkness scratching at her sanity, pulling her mindset between fury and fright. "We have to get to her. It's a trick." Rachel pressed on, rushing towards the flickering figure. Despair coiled tightly around her throat. The closer she drew, the more distortions of her daughter's likeness warped into view, deceptive, twisted fragments that oozed with madness. The laughter intensified, coating the air in sickening waves. "Are you ready to play?" it asked, the malevolence spilling from shadows that slithered back and forth, as if forming a boundary they dared not cross. "No!" Rachel shouted. The sheer defiance pushed her forward, razor-focused on rescuing Emily from the clutches of this nightmare. The figures swirled, growing larger, merging together into grotesque forms that seemed to feed off her fear. Then the light flickered again, and Rachel's heart sank. The place felt alive, the floor breathing beneath her feet, the walls pressing in like an embracing, malicious tide. A high-pitched scream broke through the shrouded air, wrenching Rachel's focus. Fear twisted inside her. What if it was Emily? "Let us through," she cried, voice taut with despair. Time warped around them, seconds stretching long enough to choke her with dread. "Mommy, come play with us." Another distorted voice joined the chorus, eerie and unsettling, merging with the scratchy echo of Jake's voice. "Shut up!" Rachel shrieked, flinging her arm out instinctively to block whatever approached. She glanced over her shoulder to see Jake's eyes wide with fear, a reflection of her own emotions mirrored back. Panic solidified her resolve, masking her fear with pure adrenaline. Then, amidst the chaos, clarity struck like lightning. She had to confront this head-on, to challenge the very fabric of the darkness coiling around them. "Emily, I'm coming!" she shouted, the words pouring from her lips like a lifeline, anchoring her amidst the swirling terror. She lunged forward into the shadows, determined to reach whatever fragment of her daughter still lay in wait, but before she could grasp the fading silhouette, the laughter dissolved into a cacophony of tortured screams, a storm of sound crashing over her, drowning her with the horrific tumult. She stumbled, the world tilting at odd angles, shadows shifting like living, breathing entities, and just as she felt herself slipping, an unseen wall slammed against her, throwing her backwards into the cold, unforgiving darkness. Only one can win, came the haunting echo, chilling her spirit, and she realized with dawning horror that the game was far from over. As she gasped for breath, the walls seemed to close around her, holding her tightly in a grip of metal and malice. What had she awakened? How could she fight against a force that twisted reality, void of rules and filled with deceit? As she lay there, racked with disorientation, she sensed movement in the shadows once more, a sinister promise that beckoned them deeper into the abyss where only darkness thrived. Who or what would emerge next to claim its victory? Rachel could only hope that a way out still existed, even as the laughter reverberated ominously around her. The door had barely opened to the true horror that awaited. The darkness pressed against Rachel like a living entity, each breath an effort against its weight. There was no way to gauge time here. Seconds felt like hours, twisting through a relentless torment. Jake clung to her, his small hands a fragile anchor in this chaotic storm of sound and shadow. The laughter moved around them, pulling at their sanity with a persistence that threatened to tear them apart. "Mommy!" Jake's voice cracked, a note of terror pinging in sharp echoes all around them. Rachel felt her heart shatter at the sound. She had to protect him, she had to move, had to act. The shape of Emily, though nearly indistinguishable, was still out there, and Rachel fought against herself, against this place that whispered temptations to give in. "Stay close," she urged, already pushing through the suffocating grip of dread. Her fingers trembled, barely able to steady the flashlight that flickered like a dying heartbeat. Every beam illuminated the warped visions of her daughter, minuscule snippets of what was once joyful. Each blink of the light revealed distorted smiles, mocking what it meant to be happy. Suddenly, the flashes revealed a room, shrouded in thick shadows and littered with broken toys, remnants of childhood chaos now twisted into cruel specters. Rachel felt sick as the past bled into the present. The toys she once bought for Emily, now alien relics that vibrated with malice. Then it hit her. There was something more here, a darkness that consumed not just her daughter but their very memories. "Forget about us," Jake pleaded, his legs trembling like twigs ready to snap. "We should leave. Please." His plea resonated deep within her, but the promise to protect her daughter fueled a burning rage. "I want tea. I need to find her." She stepped deeper into the room, light dancing erratically, coaxed by unseen forces. With each step, shadows crept closer, curling around her like fingers made of mist. A shiver crawled up her spine, scraping against the edges of her sanity. Only one can win. The chilling whispers wrapped around her, inviting her into despair's embrace. They swirled again, warping her perception, mocking her with cruelty. Suddenly, the shadows merged, forming a towering figure, the embodiment of their fears. Rachel froze as the figure's face melted into countless reflections of Emily, each more monstrous than the last. Her heart plummeted. "No. This has to be a trick. Just play." A chorus of voices begged, a sickening blend of childlike innocence tied with malice. "Jake!" Rachel cried out, turning to him. But a curtain of darkness swallowed him whole, and in a breath, he was gone. Panic shot through her like ice water, a desperate clawing for him. "Jake!" She screamed, the weight of her voice swallowed by the oppressive void. Out of desperation, she turned back, trying to face that grotesque figure, a futile confrontation against the consuming shadows. "Release him. I'm not afraid of you." It felt weak, but it tore through the noise a little. The figure dissipated into mist, laughter curling back to a whisper, swirling around her in mocking delight. A flicker of the flashlight struck against something familiar, an old photo of Emily. Rachel reached for it instinctively, but the world twisted violently, pulling her back down. "Play with us." The voices sang, merging into one terrifying tone that coiled around her throat, choking off her air. Tears blurred her vision as she wrestled with unyielding fear, the tormenting laughter sharpening into a knife that cut through her hope. She couldn't give in. Hadn't she fought hard enough? Then, a flicker of light exploded around her as the whispers dropped to a hush. In that moment of eerie silence, Rachel realized the specter of Emily was deeper into the shadows than she had ever thought. She had to find her, but this time, Rachel felt it a shift in the air, the ground trembling beneath her shoes. Something, a door? An exit? Was about to crack open in this dreadful game. Was she ready to confront what lay beyond? How far would she go to find her daughter, to defeat whatever sought to consume them both? Reality blurred once more, and shadows danced hungrily at the periphery of her vision. Emily! I'm coming! Rachel shouted, bridging the gap between terror and love, preparing for whatever awaited her. Then, the ground lurched, pulling her deeper into the dark, and a voice echoed faintly, "A promise only one can win, but will it be you?" Rachel felt herself falling, the ground beneath her disappearing into a void that seemed both infinite and consuming. Every instinct screamed for her to fight, to claw her way back to the surface, but the dark was relentless, swallowing her whole. Then, sudden stillness. It wrapped around her like a heavy blanket, and she was left alone in a space between spaces. Fear gripped her heart, tightening its icy fingers around her chest. The air tasted stale, like old secrets hidden away in forgotten corners. "Jake?" She called again, her voice small and desperate. The silence that answered felt like a betrayal, amplifying her dread. Somewhere, in this endless nothing, she had lost him. Rachel took a deep breath, focusing on the sound of her breath echoing softly in the oppressive void. She needed to think straight. The memories of Jake's terrified face haunted her, pushing her forward. Emily was somewhere in here, and she had to find her before the shadows did. Footsteps echoed, or was it the haunting rhythm of her own heartbeat? Each pulse felt stronger, pounding against the silence. The whispers returned, swirling around her with insidious familiarity. "Join us, come play," but she wouldn't succumb. Not now. With renewed determination, Rachel forced herself to move toward the ethereal echoes. They taunted her with visions, brief flickers of hope, memories of laughter. She stumbled forward through the unreal darkness, heart pounding. A flicker of light appeared ahead, barely illuminating the thick shadows. Was it a door? She couldn't help but feel it was a lure, but desperation clouded her judgment. "Emily!" Rachel cried again, rushing toward the light. As she approached, the figure emerged sharply, a silhouette that sent needles of icy fear through her. It wasn't just darkness and shadows, it had shape, and in that shape, she recognized her daughter. "Mommy?" The sound stretched out, echoing all the way back to her. The voice carried a sweetness that felt out of place, tainted with something deeper and darker. Rachel's heart soared and shattered all at once. She reached out as her daughter stepped into the light, revealing an Emily transformed, eyes shining with a strange light, smiling but hollow. "Play with us, Mommy," she said, the cheer in her voice like a knife through Rachel's heart. An insidious undertone lay within the darkness wrapped tightly around her. "Emily, no!" Rachel shouted, stepping back instinctively. "You have to fight it. It's not you." With that, shadows surged, fists of darkness lunging toward Rachel. She stumbled as they brushed against her skin, icy and damp, dragging her closer to the ground. "Only one can win," they cried, and she felt an overwhelming panic clawing at the edges of her mind. "Emily!" she cried, inching closer, desperation overpowering her fear. "Fight it. Remember our games, our laughter." But Emily's smile twisted, morphing into something grotesque, her voice melding into the whispers, mocking Rachel's pleas. "No one can win except us." Suddenly, Rachel felt something surge within her, a primal instinct. "I love you, Emily. You are my daughter. You are not these shadows." Light erupted from her voice, piercing through the darkness like a beacon. Emily staggered back, the shadows retreating slightly, pulling away from the brilliance. Rachel pushed forward, wrapping her arms around the wavering figure of her daughter. "Wake up, Emily. You have to wake up," she shouted, her voice shaking the very walls of their shared nightmare, but the shadows were regrouping, pooling ominously around them, threatening to drown out Rachel's desperate cries. "Only one can win," echoed ominously, and Rachel gasped, realizing the gravity of her mission. Would love be enough to combat this consuming darkness? Would they both emerge from this nightmare, or was she frantically grasping at straws in a desperate game where the stakes were more than just survival? The shadows twisted closer, whispering promises that threatened to split her mind. And she knew, with a heavy heart, that the answer to saving Emily lay within the chaos. The floor vibrated again, but this time, it felt like the promise of an escape. A crack split the ground, a light emerging from deep within the darkness. "Do you want to play?" The shadows beckoned, their sounds wrapping around her, insatiable, intoxicating. Rachel had to decide. Would she take the leap? Embrace the chaos in the name of love? And amid her turmoil and the beckoning of the abyss, a sickening thought swirled: what if the price of freedom was greater than she was willing to pay? The light flickered like a dying flame, casting grotesque shadows across the jagged crack in the ground. Rachel's heartbeat thundered in her ears as she weighed the abyss's call against her daughter's fading presence. The whispers around her grew louder, more insistent. They clamored for her attention, as if the shadows themselves would swallow whatever she had left of hope. "Emily, listen to me," Rachel shouted, gripping her daughter's shoulders. The strange light in Emily's eyes flickered, a flicker of recognition within the haze. "You have to fight. You have to remember who you are." But the shadows crept forward, tightening their grip around Emily's throat, dark tendrils curling around her. The child's breathing quickened, a panicked gasp escaping her lips. "Mommy, it hurts," she whimpered, her voice quaking with fear that clawed at Rachel's chest. "No. Fight it, Emily." Rachel felt sweat bead on her forehead, dripping down her face as desperation twisted her insides. "We'll get out of this together. Just hold on." But the shadows, sly and sinister, tugged at Emily's enthusiasm, wrapping it in suffocating darkness. They hissed through twisted grins, their voices dripping with malice. "Come play with us, it's so much more fun here." Each word pierced the air like a dagger, promising twisted games that only fed on fear and despair. Rachel's grip tightened, her fingers digging into the warm flesh of her daughter, anchoring her to the dwindling light that flickered around them. "This isn't you," she yelled, voice cracking. Glaring into the sea of shadows, she felt the heat of her anger flaring into a flame. "You want to take her. I want to let you." And just like that, she felt it, a surge of warmth, blossoming from somewhere deep within. Love. It sparked in the center of her chest, bright and unyielding against the encroaching darkness. "I love you, Emily. You are so much more than this. Remember our stories? Remember our games?" Emily's eyes widened, a hint of clarity breaking through the fog. It was a flicker, barely noticeable, but it was there. And for that moment, Rachel saw her little girl amid the mire. "Mommy?" Emily stumbled, fighting against the shadowy grip. That slight sliver of recognition ignited even more defiance within Rachel. "Keep fighting, sweetheart," Rachel bellowed, as the very ground beneath them shook violently. The crack widened, and a brilliant light threatened to consume them both. "They're afraid of you. You are the light, Emily." But with each word, the shadows hissed louder, reverberating through the air like venomous serpents. "You will lose, you cannot win." They shrieked, their form twisting, aching for dominance. The tremors intensified as a jagged fissure opened wide beneath Rachel's feet, threatening to swallow her. She could see the abyss pulsating within it, beckoning with promises of release and dark brilliance. Fear tugged at her heart. Was she risking her daughter's life for nothing? No. Rachel couldn't back down now. "Emily, hold my hand," she cried, extending her arm toward her daughter. Emily blinked, her features contorting from confusion to understanding. She reached for Rachel, light coupling with darkness as their fingertips brushed together. In that instant, the vibrations stopped. Time seemed to freeze, shadows recoiling as if afraid of the bond they were forming. Then, the air exploded with radiant energy, flooding the void. Together. Rachel screamed, pulling Emily to her with every ounce of strength she had. The shadows screamed. No! In a chorus of rage and terror, as the light expanded, swallowing the darkness whole. But they wouldn't go quietly. Rachel felt the cold tendrils lash out again, wrapping around her ankle with icy claws of despair. The world spun, the light consuming her, the shadows thrashing violently, ensnaring Rachel in their desperate bid for survival. But was she saving Emily, or were they merging with their fears? Suddenly, the light whipped back, and she felt weightless, floating in brilliant luminescence. All she heard was her own scream, mingling with the shadows' desperate cries. What lay beyond this swirl of brightness? Rachel braced herself for an impact as the light enveloped her completely, and then everything went black. But something shifted. An echoing whisper reached her ears. "One of you must choose." Rachel's heart thundered. What horrific choice awaited her on the other side of the silence? Rachel's heart pounded in the heavy stillness. The vibrant colors of light instantly faded, replaced by a soul-crushing void of darkness that enveloped her. This was not an ending but a terrifying new beginning. She felt cold, her breath shallow as the whisper echoed around her. "Choose it," murmured again, weaving its way through her thoughts, each word laced with malice and temptation. What choice? What could be on the other side of this torment? Suddenly, the shadows returned, swirling like a tempest, clinging to her with an icy grip. Terrified voices reached out, intertwining with the haunting echoes of Emily and Jake. They cried out, distant yet so achingly close. "Mommy, help!" They pleaded, fractured voices pulling at the tether of her sanity. The shadows coiled more tightly, skimming against her skin like cold fingers of despair. Rachel understood then their safety depended on her choice. It would either be her or them. Tremors surged beneath her feet. She was teetering on the precipice of a terrible decision. Could she sacrifice herself to save them? Or would she gamble their lives for a chance at victory, a shot at reunion in this twisted realm? No! She screamed, her voice ringing out like a beacon, bright against the oppressive dark. "I want to choose. I will fight." The shadows recoiled momentarily, and Rachel felt a rush of fiery strength course through her veins, igniting her will to confront whatever darkness loomed in the depths. Drawing from the pure love she had for her children, Rachel pushed forward, calling their names as she surged against the black tide threatening to consume her. "Emily! Jake! I'm here!" In an instant, a light flickered, glowing faintly in the distance. It shimmered with the warmth of home, love, and laughter. The shadows around her shrieked, retreating as she moved closer, wrapped in the hope of her children. The world around her warped and twisted, drawing her toward that glimmering promise. "Stay with me. I am coming." She felt her heart race, pulling with gravitational urgency toward the light. The voices echoed, distorted yet recognizable. "Mommy! Help us!" The shift in the air was palpable, swirling violently around her, but Rachel fought through it, fueled by unyielding determination. She reached out to the light, willing it to grow, breathing purpose into its fragile luminescence. Suddenly, dark figures emerged, clawing at her, desperate to drag her back. Each one whispered promises of darkness and despair, but Rachel remained steadfast, channeling the love that anchored her in the relentless storm. "Get away! You will not take my children!" She roared, her voice reverberating through the void, shattering their hold on her. With one last surge of energy, she propelled herself toward the light, heart racing. The shadows shrieked in desperate fury, attempting to snare her with echoes of dread. "You can't win, Rachel. You must choose." But she knew too well their deception. "Choose love!" Rachel shouted, and in that command, she felt an ethereal bond emerge around her. The love pulsated bright with vibrant energy, pushing the darkness further away as she fought with every ounce of strength she possessed. In a blinding flash, the world exploded into brilliant light, overwhelming the darkness with pure warmth. Then, silence. Rachel felt weightless, suspended between realms as the light enveloped her completely. She closed her eyes, imagining her children, the sound of their laughter, the warmth of their hugs. She focused on the unbreakable bond they shared, a thread connecting their hearts no matter the shadow clinging to them. When the light faded, Rachel opened her eyes, gasping as reality returned in flashes of vivid color. The living room was back, sunlight streaming through the windows, dust dancing in the air, illuminating the space that had once felt so foreign and threatening, but what lay before her stole her breath away. Jake and Emily were there, huddled close together on the couch, their faces filled with innocent wonder. The home felt safe, filled with the remnants of better days. "Mommy!" they exclaimed, leaping up and enveloping her in a tight embrace, warm and familiar, erasing the horrors in one heartfelt embrace. Tears streamed down Rachel's face as the sweetness of their laughter washed away the remnants of fear that had gripped her heart. She pulled back from the hug, gazing into their eyes, real, pure, free from shadows. "You're safe," she whispered, her heart swelling with relief. "We're all safe." Suddenly, the weight of everything swirled around her, memories of shadows fading, whispers retreating into the recesses of the night. The gripping fear evaporated like mist in sunlight. They had triumphed. Rachel hugged her children tightly again, willing her love to fill the cracks of their fractured space. Outside, life resumed. A soft breeze danced through the trees, their laughter filling the air with echoes of hope and safety. Nothing could ever touch them like that again, and as she gathered her children into a warm embrace, it dawned on her love was the truest shield against darkness. With their spirits intertwined, they were ready to face whatever storm lay beyond, stronger than shadows could ever imagine. Don't let this moment fade away. You need to subscribe now to the channel so you don't miss out on future stories that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Smash that like button to help boost us through the algorithm. Flood the comments with your thoughts about this ending and any theories you might have. And remember, this is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your love keeps this journey alive.